Okay, Mike Stern, welcome back to Australian Musician.
Thank you very much.
You're coming back to Australia in February next year. Do
Yeah,
you remember much about the first time you came to Australia and toured?
the very first time I remember I was there with Dave Weckl, and I forget it was playing. There was a few times I came. Frank Corniola
Yeah,
hooked. He's got that drum shop,
yeah,
and he's a great guy, amazing cat. And he hooked it up, so we did a lot of touring. We did about 3 or 4 tours um, with him over the years, and I forget when that was, a few years ago,
yeah,
and uh, and it was great. And then, then Bird's Basement, I guess, opened up, and I heard about that, and got in touch with Albert, and he's been bringing me over to join to play at Bird's Basement, and then we're going to be touring elsewhere this time.
yeah,
Uh, Different places. So I'm looking forward to it.
yeah. Much has happened since we spoke 7 years ago. When I did speak to you was just before your released Trip, which was based on, or the name was based on the fall that you had in New York, where you hurt many body parts, but significantly your picking hand.
Yes.
I believe you come up with a picking solution involving glue.
Yeah, I had to. I mean, there's no way after a while. And I had to, I wasn't going to give up. I fell on this construction. It wasn't supposed to be in the street. And, um, and, uh, I went to the emergency room. My hands were actually perfect. But a few days later, nerve damage started happening on my right hand. So you can see it's kind of like that's as high as I can get. This hand is normal. This hand is not so normal.
Yeah.
So I had a bunch of surgeries. I found a great doctor, and and kind of kept going almost right away, like 3 months after the accident, and then maybe even less, and that was tough at first. And then the surgeon did some more stuff, and I just got more used to it. And then I realized I still have to use glue to hold the pick, and I've been doing that ever since. A certain kind of wig glue, actually. It doesn't hurt your skin, but it's really sticky. So it's working. It's working. It makes it happen. And it's great to hear from people, because I obviously, feel a difference, obviously, but people say they don't hear a difference in my playing. Just generally, they say it's happening. I miss playing with my fingers some. I used to play more with my fingers, and I can't really do that now. But with a pick, that's 90% of what I was always doing anyway.
Yeah.
So that's working.
Yeah, good. Um,
Yeah.
Also, since we spoke, you've released two albums, one called 11 with Jeff Lorber and a new one, solo album, Echoes and Other Songs.
Yeah.
Both very different albums. How important is it for you to mix up styles from album to album?
I mean, I like to do that, but my records probably have a certain more of a continuity. The one with Jeff Lorber was, of course, not my record solely. It was half his record, half my record, half of my tunes and half of his tunes. And I thought it really came out good. I wasn't sure what to expect, because I never really played with him.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Haslip, who I played with in the Yellow Jackets, a great band. And I played with them some for about a year. We went on tour, and so I got to know him pretty well. And then he called me and said, "Why don't you get together with Jeff Lorber?" I thought it was just for a couple of gigs. Somehow I misunderstood it, but then it became a record, and then we did some touring, and it was fun. We played at Bird's Basement too, and it was fun. And he's an amazing producer, but my stuff is, there's more continuity, because I write all the songs on my records, and kind of have a certain conception of how I want them to sound, and probably it's a liver sound than Jeff's. Jeff produces it great, though. He's a phenomenal producer of what he does. But I really, as a matter of fact, uh, he did some of his tunes on his record with drums. I think somebody did the drums when they weren't in the room, you know, with us, and we kind of pieced it together like that, like a lot of people do. And I can't do that, or at least I've never really tried. I like people to be in the same place, especially the kind of music, the kind of jazz that I like, where the drummer is, you know, we're all kind of playing together, playing off of each other and spontaneously. So it's like a group conversation in real time, you know, and that's what you capture. And of course you can fix it later, change little things, but the main stuff is there.
Yeah.
You know.
Speaking of playing with other people, you're bringing Dennis Chambers out with this tour.
Yeah.
You always have the greatest drummers with your bands. Why do you place such importance in the percussion in the bands? And what is it about playing and the relationship with the drums?
Oh, that's probably the most important instrument on the bandstand. When there's drums included, the drummer's it's the strongest instrument. He can make it or break it, kind of. You know, if the drummer's got a real good time feel and good sense of dynamics, you're golden. You know, and so that's what's been it's great with Dennis like that. I mean, he's just amazing. Plus, he solos his ass off and all that stuff. But the musicality that he just brings to any band is wonderful. So I've been playing with him off and on for maybe 40 years, something like that, years and years now. And so it's great. It's great. And I, you know, same thing with Dave Weckl. I was in Australia, another amazing drummer like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
I would say that's the key thing, and I've been so lucky to get those guys.
Yeah, yeah. You're also touring here with your wife Leni, of course. Tell me about the first time you met Leni.
Oh, that was at actually Bill Frisell, a great jazz guitar player, introduced us in Boston, and we got to know each other well, and then she was going to lose her student visa and have to go back to Germany. I said, let's get married. I don't want you to go. So we got married. We got a prenuptial agreement. So no, there wouldn't be any haggling in case it didn't work out. And then it worked out. And it's been working for 40 years. I threw the prenuptial agreement away, of course, and it's just normal now. We're just married solid, you know. It's 42 years, something like that. A long time.
Yeah.
Leni always doesn't want me to announce that on the bandstand. She says it makes her feel old. So I said, okay, well, we got married when we were 5. 45. Yeah. But anyway, she's young forever as far as I'm concerned. Very talented, and so it's really fun to tour with her.
Yeah. Getting back to the current album, Echoes, another guy that you play with on that album, Richard Bona, who is fantastic. He had so much soul to a project. How far back do you guys go?
Oh, yeah, we go back. We did a record called Voices. That was the first time I recorded with him. And then he was on a couple more of mine. And it's been a treat. We're going to be doing some stuff in Japan coming up in March of next year, I think. But he's fantastic. Amazing bass player, amazing singer. And I got him to sing on a couple of tunes and play on one without singing. And he tears it up. A great bass player, great singer. Everything he does is so beautiful. And him and Dennis have such a hookup. They love to play together. So Dennis Chambers. So it's really fun. Yeah.
In general, what's the starting point for a Mike Stern composition?
Good question. That's really a good question because I don't know how it evolves. I'm not sure. Sometimes it's just maybe I'll be reading through a solo of somebody's, like a McCoy Tyner solo, and there'll be a line in there that just grabs me, and maybe I'll work with that just a little 6, 7 notes or something, you know, that might happen. Or a couple of times I was reading through some Bach stuff that I used to play a lot and just sight read it. And a couple of times, more than a couple of times, that would just inspire me. Some of the writing of Bach, of course, and other classical stuff that I have.
Yeah.
So, especially for ballads, but and some of the stuff is just comes out of me somehow, rhythmically too. I really hear a kind of groove to it, and I might change that, but generally I try to start a tune that has a certain kind of feeling, and I try to keep the tune with that same excitement. Or and if it's that kind of tune, or if it's a sad tune, I want to keep that same vibe, you know. It's a ballad, or if it's something in between. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's about as clear as I can get. It's such a weird thing, composition. It's
Yeah.
where do you start? Where do you know?
Yeah. Is it easy for you to know when a tune is finished and to leave it alone?
It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard to know. Yeah, I once did a something called Choices for one of Michael Brecker's records, and he recorded it. I was really happy that he did it, and I thought I was going to write a solo section. He just said, "Let me just play over the chords," and he played it great. Of course, he could play over everything, but it just worked out just the way it was. I was going to write some other section and then a solo section or something, and he just played it for him, and him and Don Grolnick, and they liked the tune, and they used it on Mike's first record, Michael Brecker's first solo record. And you know, and that's a good example of that's why I always had Jim Beard produce. He was always producing my records, and he was amazing. I mean, he could help me stop something when it's time to stop. Not so much the composition, although we would sometimes talk, and he would change different or suggest changes in different things, or the ending could be shorter, or you know, this and that. But he stayed out of the way of most of that. But just when we got going to a project, and he could send out demos, and he could just realize the music in such a way on the piano, and he was such a great piano player and such a great arranger. And it's so sad that he died right after this project. I mean, we finished this project, and then he was on the road with Steely Dan, and he got some problems, and you know, and died, which was a shocker to everybody. I think he went in to the hospital for cancer, which they were going to deal with. It wasn't out of the, it was tricky, but not impossible to deal with by any means. And then I think they had to do something else, and he got sepsis from that, and that's what actually killed him. It was kind of a mistake in the hospital. So it's really sad when that happens for whatever reason, but especially sad when it's, you know, like that.
Yeah.
But
I guess that makes this album quite special to you.
very, very, and Jim just played everything he plays on this is perfect, you know, and just it's just I miss him a lot, but yes, it does.
Yeah. And how do you generally record your guitar parts? I guess Jim had a little bit to do with that as well. Like, do you go straight into the desk? Do you experiment with miking with amps?
Usually just mic the 2 amps with the Shure 57s. That's the old kind of typical microphone and good for guitar. And I use 2 amps. I like a stereo sound and kind of wide. It just feels a little bit more vocal to me. That's always kind of why I use that sound. And I have this effect that most of the time I use that works well with 2 amps, and then just go for it. It's not really much to. I don't ever go direct with you know, probably if I was playing an arch top, I would do that. But since I play a telly style guitar, it doesn't have that kind of air in the sound. It's kind of, so you got to kind of get it from the amp. And what you know, I try to get the sound that inspire. You know, I tell everybody just find whatever you want. to inspire you to play the music, because that's the main thing. And get the sound that you really like, that inspires you overall. Of course, nothing's perfect. You always say, oh, well, I wish I'd had this for this. Some people take around 3 or 4 guitars, but I'm not that type of person. I just take one and do it.
Yeah. Also, since we spoke last, your beloved 55 bar in New York closed. Has another venue emerged to take its place?
Well, there's the Bitter End, which has been there forever. And, everybody's played there. I think Stevie Wonder once played there. And, I can't imagine who hasn't played there. Bob Dylan, a bunch of, they got pictures of everybody that played there. So I've been playing there a little bit. And another place called Drome, and it's a DROM. It's a cool place, another club. And sometimes the Birdland in the city also is another really cool place. So I'm playing around some, but not like the 55. That was a special place, and it's sad that it closed. But I had a gig there for 40 years, so I think that's long enough. Yeah, it was a long ass residency. I was there. I was probably more often on the road in a lot of those years than I was in town. But whenever I was in town, I could play there on Mondays and Wednesdays. So it was cool.
Yeah. Well, what about bucket list projects? Things in the back of your mind that you want to get to one day? Maybe you're not in a hurry to do it, but want to get to it one day. Anything there?
Oh, there's a lot of stuff that I'd love to get into, but I don't even know if I'll find the time, because I'd have to learn a lot. I'd love to write more for big band. I've never done that, but I love that kind of sound. And I've done a record with a couple big bands, actually, but the one that is out is the Danish radio big band. There's a recording. They did some of my tunes, and I did some other stuff. I think I played Summertime on that record, and it was really well done, man. It's a great band, Danish radio big band. It's phenomenal. So that was really a treat to play with them, and I got hooked into that sound. It's phenomenal to play with a big band. So it's not so often for a guitar player to get featured, especially playing like I do, to get featured with the band, and it worked great. So yeah, I'd love to try to do something like that. If I can't write it, maybe I'll get somebody to do it. Of course. So that's probably what I'll end up doing, is work with somebody.
All right, Mike, we should let you go, and we look forward to seeing you back here in February.
Man, thank you very much. I can't wait. Yeah, looking forward to it.